Most people who buy E86 M3s don't seem to buy them for their back seats. In fact, from what I can tell, most E86 M3 owners wish their car had a bit less weight and a quicker steering rack. So why not buy the car? It's got those things already.
2 seats, rear-wheel drive and a manual gearbox paired with a limited slip differential is typically a winning formula for car enthusiasts and keen drivers alike. Despite this, BMW's Z car range seems to be somewhat overlooked in the UK, with the majority of attention going towards its more common sibling, the 3 Series Coupe.
Here at Shooting Brake, we've always wondered why that is. Surely an M3 draped underneath the body of a bespoke sports car with less weight to boot could only be a good thing. We've taken this very car out for a drive down some gorgeous Welsh B-roads to find out if it truly is the underappreciated gem that we think it is. Cool, so we're in a Z4M on a Welsh mountain road. Highlight points are Z4 chassis, which is predominantly an E86 underneath, but less weight, we're sitting further back. We've got 2 seats and you can see the bonnet stretching out in front. We've got an S54 B32 hiding underneath that bonnet, 338 brake horsepower, and on this one a beautiful carbon airbox which sounds absolutely incredible. Listen to this. Oh, that is just so good. I mean, come on, that is just obscene. That alone, I mean, it's worth buying the car just for that, isn't it? Super strong brakes, same brakes as the E86 M3, but less weight to deal with. It's really interesting. So I've got a E86 M3 coupe myself, and I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favourite cars ever. So driving this, which is basically, you know, the same underpinnings and put in a different package, is it's just from a BMW enthusiast perspective, it's super interesting. So we've got very, very quick steering. The number one criticism people give of the E86 M3 is a slow steering rack. We've got super quick steering, same steering rack as in the CSL here, and only about 80 kilos more weight. And we've got a different gearbox with a different feeling linkage. It's, in my opinion, much nicer. It comes with a shorter shifter as standard. And then the brakes, same brakes, but the servo has been boosted up. So all of the response is right there, top of the pedal. Not sure how I feel about that, but once you get used to it, it is really nice because this is a car where you want to be super on it with your responses and very, very quick. Where the steering's quick and where the throttle response is super aggressive, and where you've got a very high compression cami engine, everything happens so quickly. So as much as this probably isn't that much quicker or quicker at all than compared to a 997 Carrera, for instance, but it feels much quicker because of the way everything is weighted and everything is geared. So whilst normally I quite like long pedals, I don't mind the shorter brake pedal and the shorter throttle once you get used to it here, because it is a car where you want to be able to react very, very quickly to what's going on. Now, as you may know, the Z4M has a bit of a widowmaker reputation, which you're either going to hate or going to love. It's a reputation that precedes most kind of long bonnet, old school cabback sports cars like this, or the S2000 or Dodge Viper. I don't think it comes inherently with that layout. Now, what happens is, compared to an E86 M3 where you sit right in the middle of the car and you feel the car rotating around you, you come into a corner and you feed the car in and you watch the car go around the corner, and then you go around the corner yourself. So if anything happens, if the rear end starts to twitch around, or if you get it on the brakes really hard in a corner and the rear end starts to pitch around to follow, it's a much more visceral feeling. I'll be honest, it's fairly intimidating when you first start driving it, but what it gives you is a huge amount of engagement. This is such a visceral car to drive. I'm just going to turn around so we can do that amazing bit of road again. This is such a visceral car to drive. At any speed, you don't need to be going 10 tenths like in an E86 M3 to enjoy it. Especially with that airbox, you just get through the gears, enjoy that induction note, it almost makes you want to be in a lower gear just so you can rev out a bit longer. But here we go, we've got national speed limit, second gear, 3,000 RPM. Listen to that. Now you want to try not to trail brake in this. You want to get all your braking done in a straight line. Get that nice, tight, quick geared front end tucked in. And then where your weight's shifted over the rear axle, you can actually get in the power surprisingly early, a bit like a 911 almost. It's very, very planted and compliant. It's not going to step out on you, even on full throttle, which for a BMW is quite incredible, really. We've got Bilstein PSSS 10 coilovers on this, which does help. But even then, it's that cab back layout that really helps settle the back end. If you're looking to drive a car quickly and engage with it as much as possible, and you want something sharper, more focused than an E86 M3 Coupe, this is the car for you. Oh, just listen to that airbox. Throttle's super responsive on rev match downshifts, and just wind it out. Undulating piece of road here just eats it up. It feels intimidating, but when you actually do lean on it, it's there for you, it takes care of you. Which is what you want, really. You want a car that feels tricky, but ultimately it takes care of you. It's not actually going to spit you out into a hedge, but it gives you the feeling that it will, which is so exciting, and that is what a Z4M is all about, excitement and feel. Now, while we're here, let's talk about the overall package of this car. So they made the Z4M, I believe, between 2006 and 2008, super short production run. There's less than 1,000 cars in the UK. They're all manual. They don't suffer from the RACP rear end issues that the E86 M3 has, and they don't rust, as far as I can see, anywhere near as bad. This car is rust free. It's black with a red interior, which, I mean, it's a classic. And again, I keep on referencing the E86 M3 because you can pick one of these up for about the same price as a well-sorted M3. So most people will cross-shop the two cars. Compared to an M3, this feels so much more modern inside, and not in an annoying way, in a really nice way. So for one thing, there's no screen here to date the dash. Instead, you've got this really special Z4 dash that's completely unique to the Z car. Deeply cowled dials here. We've got the M car all temp gauge. Got a nice stubby 6-speed manual gearbox lever here. Beautiful, quite small steering wheel. Overall, it's got a really special feeling to it. It doesn't feel like a boggo saloon car in the way that an M3 can do. There's a feeling of the whole cabin being designed, or having a design ethos behind it. And it's quite a retro design ethos. It kind of reminds you of a 60s, Ferrari 250 or something like that, with these two deeply cowled dials in front of you, manual gearbox here, long bonnet stretching out in front of you, and a view of that cropped rear window that sits over that cam cut-off tail, which I just love. One of the best rear ends that BMW ever made. So this is one of those cars, the second you get into it and you turn that key and you start it up, it feels so, so special. It really, really does.
Now the fact is, whilst many of you will be enamoured enough by the Z4M to make a beeline straight to Shooting Brake's auction listing, some of you will be stacking up the pros and cons against this car's rivals. The Z4M offers a package not dissimilar to TVRs of old: edgy, powerful and old school proportions with futuristic details. The Z4M was launched to compete with the 987 Porsche Cayman S, but its straight-line performance is actually more akin to a 911 Carrera. The Z car might not have the 10/10 composure of a Porsche product, but it's dripping in character and feel, and the S54 engine is on par with something you'd get from Porsche's GT department, which is about as high praise as you can get. It's a much more exciting drive, and with just 578 coupe sold in the UK, it's also a much more exclusive proposition. Meanwhile, you get many of the charms of a TVR without losing out on usability or reliability. This car's had the rod bearings replaced, which is the S54's main bugbear, and I'd trust it to take me anywhere without leaving me stranded. Which brings us on to our next point.
For me personally, to buy a car, there has to be a use case. What do you use it for? For one thing, this is a great GT with that hatchback rear boot. You can get loads of luggage and suitcases and all that kind of stuff in. It's really, really quiet at 70 and above. Got nice long gearing, plenty of power in fifth, so you don't need to drop down to make an overtake on the motorway. The steering's quick, on the border of being twitchy, but it's not twitchy. It's very, very manageable. Decent stereo, everything that you need. But the use case of this car more than anything is the fact that it does just feel special all the time. If you buy this as a weekend car, you will not be disappointed. You could daily, but if you buy it as a weekend car, it will satisfy that need for something a bit special, you know, a bit racy, a bit aggressive. There's a lot of feel that's been engineered into this car. And now we're driving around town, and this is a great example of how usable an M car is, and the reason why you buy an M car over something else. When you need this to just be a normal car, it is. You still feel the fact that it's got an S54, the throttle's a bit twitchy, you come off the throttle, loads of engine braking because it's such a high compression engine. But it's a perfectly usable car. I mean, BMW spent millions on the research and development on this, ultimately to make sure that anyone can drive it where they need to. Gearbox is nice and easy to use. It's as short a shifter as you'd want in a normal car without being notchy or heavy, which is great. Clutch is really nice. Again, brakes take some getting used to around town to make sure your head doesn't hit the windscreen when you press them, but once you get used to that, it's fine. And what's really nice for a sports coupe is you've got decent sized windows here. Your visibility is quite good. It's not blocked by this A-pillar despite it being quite thick. It's kind of where you want it to be. You've got good mirrors. You can see the rear haunches in the mirrors, which makes it so special to drive when you're kind of driving through town or on the motorway and you look in them and you see that flick up of the rear arch. This is a very, very usable car when you need it to be, while still always feeling special. And that is a very, very difficult thing to achieve. A lot of manufacturers have spent a lot of money trying to achieve that. If you like your M cars rare, naturally aspirated and manually shifted, head on over to shootingbrake.com where you can get a bid in on this sapphire black BMW Z4 M coupe. With over 150 detailed photographs and a comprehensive description on every listing, you can bid in confidence and potentially get this very car on your driveway after a couple clicks.
Whether it's bidding, selling or browsing, Shooting Brake is your home for enthusiasts and classic vehicles. We loved reviewing this Z4M and we've got loads of exciting content lined up for you here, so make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time for a review of another rather special small BMW.